Father who adopted child that turned out to be 22-year-old feared she would stab him after finding knives under her bed.
I actually had this story too. It's wild, isn't it?
I haven't read this one.
Oh, go ahead.
The family who adopted a young woman they thought was a child said they feared she wanted to stab them. When Christine and Michael Barnett adopted Natalia Grace back in 2010, they believed she was a young girl who had a rare bone condition. However, it eventually turned out that the 6-year-old Ukrainian orphan was in fact a 22-year-old woman. And while the couple thought they were growing their family, it turned into a nightmare they say left them fearing for their lives. In an upcoming documentary about their ordeal titled Curious Case of Natalia Grace, Michael opens up about the trauma they endured. We were all abused, he says in the trailer. I hate this. She tried to poison and kill my family. And one night, I opened my eyes and Natalia is standing at the foot of the bed with a knife in her hand. Michael had previously spoken about finding knives in the house, which he believed Natalia planned on using against him and his wife. Michael says he woke to see Natalia standing over him with a knife. She would speaking on this morning, he said she would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs, so when we'd walk up and down stairs, we'd be stepping on thumbtacks. What is this, Looney Tunes? Certain things would start to become missing in the home. We'd find knives under the bed. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night, and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand, a very blank look on her face, and she's just standing there with a knife. However, while these harrowing accounts have made headlines over the world, speaking back in 2010, Natalia denied that any of it was true. When asked if she ever went into their bedroom with a knife, she told Dr. Phil, no, never. Natalia denies that she did anything wrong or wanted to harm them. Pressed on whether she wanted to stab them or had planned to do harm, Natalia again denied it, saying, no, if I ever went in their room, it was to wake them up because I was either scared or a nightmare or something like that. But I never went in their room. I didn't. Natalia claimed that she felt loved by the family and thought she had found the right mom and dad. I actually thought I had found the right family after bouncing around from a lot of families. I thought I had found the right family for me, she said. Just kind of ends there. I don't know why, but do you have that story too?
Yeah, I want to say the only other thing like I saw in the article I had was like the family eventually like just hightailed it to Canada and like left her in the house, and then they were like prosecuted for like abandonment, but then eventually like they got the judge or whatever to find out or to legally like change the girl's age to what it was 22. And that she was an adult or whatever, so they like ended up dropping those charges. But this sounds like the premise of a very weird horror film. Yeah. Like the question I have is like, did the orphanage that took this woman in, were they also in the dark that she was pretending to be that she was an adult pretending to be a child?
That's a good question. I mean,
it is crazy though when you see the photo of her, because it does look like
a kid.
Yeah, that one photo of the parents with her when she was young or whatever.
Yeah.
And she looks like a little kid, but like she's, an adult, and I'm just like, and she also like, it sounds like maybe she was in more than one family as well.
Yeah, I think she was in like another family before this.
So you have to wonder, like, did that family ever suspect?
I mean, she's clearly not playing the part if both families gave her back or like, felt suspicious about it.
But also just the weird combination that she did this, but also like, she seemingly like is a psycho that like poisoned the wife or whatever.
Yeah.
And like at least thought about like killing them, it looks like.
Yeah.
Very bizarre story.
Look, you should adopt if you can, if you got love to give, but man, be careful. There's some grown-ass people out there.
Gotta be careful of those Ukrainian or
little grown-up Ukrainian kids.
Can you imagine that? You adopt a girl you think is like 6 years old or whatever, and then you find out she's like 20.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
You can work now.
Yeah, I saw that story and it's so bizarre.
Yeah. Maybe
it'd be worth actually watching that documentary because that is something.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. Like, she went along with it. That's wild to me. But what's she gonna do? I don't know. How's she gonna live life looking like a 6-year-old?
That's the other thing. Like, you wonder like, what was her ploy in this? Did she just want like a free meal? Free housing?
I guess.
Like, what was her like overall goal?
This reminds me of another girl who has like the same or a similar condition where she looks young. She looks like she's like 8 or something, and she's like 24, and she's looking for a boyfriend, and she wants to get married and have that life, but like it's hard because she looks like a kid. So
Oh yeah, now that you mention that, I think I saw maybe an article about like a guy that was talking about like dating her or something.
yeah, yeah,
That would be really weird.
yeah. I mean, what can you do? What can you like? She needs a partner, but at the same time, it's like the only partner you think she's gonna end up finding is somebody who's into pedophilia.
And even if he wasn't, like, can you imagine like ever like anytime you go out, people are just gonna assume, oh, that's a guy with his daughter.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You can't really be affectionate in public. You can't do anything like that. It's a terrible situation that she's stuck in.
Yeah, if people saw them being affectionate, they'd be like, oh, 911,
Yeah, straight
call the
up.
cops.
Yeah, get away from that man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there'd be no explaining it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
It's crazy that conditions like that even exist.
I remember when I was a kid, I watched this show where they had like these kids. They were all like maybe 13, 14, the oldest. And they had this condition where they aged really fast, like really rapidly. So they might be like 13, 14, but they look like 96 or something.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing one of those kids on a show once.
Yeah.
It was like, well, Benjamin Button, the whole thing was like aged in reverse or
Yeah.
whatever. But it was almost like that because it was a little kid that
Yeah.
looked like they were 90. It's so weird.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so wild.
What a terrible, terrible disease to be
Yeah.
born with. Jeez, can you imagine?